The impossible front. The galactic maps aboard the Alliance command vessel Eternal Light pulsed with a constellation of red markers, each representing a fallen outpost. Admiral Zirax, his crystalline exoskeleton reflecting the grin display, studied the tactical projection with his 4 primary eyes. 7 major species of the Galactic Alliance had committed their finest warriors and most advanced technology to this war. 7 species with centuries more development than the newcomers to the galactic stage. 7 species now facing extinction. The Void Dominion has taken the Arcturus sector, reported First Sentinel Calvor, his tentacles manipulating the holographic controls with practiced precision. That makes 13 strategic positions lost in the past solar cycle. Admiral Zirax's mandibles clicked in frustration. And Helios, holding, but barely. Their quantum shields are at 17% capacity. Without reinforcement, we project total collapse within 3 planetary rotations. Helios, the last major defensive position before the core worlds. If it fell, billions would perish before evacuations could begin. The Alliance had committed everything to its defense. The biotechnology of the Mercent Collective, the psionic warriors of the Thal Imperium, the temporal manipulators of the Cronus Directive. All had failed to stem the tide of the Void Dominion's inexorable advance. What options remain? Zirax asked, already knowing the answer. Calvor hesitated, his skin shifting from confident blue to uncertain purple. The humans have offered assistance. A ripple of discomfort passed through the command chamber. The humans, barely a century into space travel, possessing technology so primitive that most Alliance species had abandoned it millennia ago. Bipedal mammals whose homeworld still witnessed armed conflicts between their own kind. Fragile beings with short lifespans and limited sensory capabilities. This is desperation, muttered Strategic Overseer Lennis, her luminescent form brightening with emotion. Their ships would be vaporized before they exited hyperspace. Yet they persist in their offer, Calvor noted. Their delegation awaits your decision. Admiral Zirax contemplated the tactical display once more. The Alliance had exhausted all conventional options. Their most advanced weaponry had proven ineffective against the quantum disruption fields that the Void Dominion deployed. Their greatest tacticians had been outwitted at every turn. Send them in, he finally ordered. Desperation indeed calls for desperate measures. Commander Maya Chen stood on the bridge of the Earth Federation vessel Defiant, staring at the swirling cerulean atmosphere of planet Helios through the viewscreen. At 34, she had risen quickly through the ranks of Earth's recently formed Space Defense Force. Her background in guerrilla tactics during the water wars of 2187 had shaped her into a commander who thrived when conventional wisdom failed. Quite the welcome committee, remarked Lieutenant Jackson, gesturing toward the Alliance fleet that surrounded their small contingent of 7 ships. The alien vessels dwarfed the human craft, some large enough to house entire cities. They're not here to welcome us, Maya replied, straightening her uniform. They're here to make sure we don't make things worse. The communication system chimed, and the translucent form of the Thal coordinator appeared on the holographic display. Commander Chen, your landing party is expected at Central Command in 30 minutes. Please remember protocol. No weaponry, no unauthorized technology, and limited personnel. Understood, Maya responded, though she had no intention of arriving unprepared. The emergency data cores concealed within her team's neural implants contained everything they might need. Tactical simulations, engineering specifications, and combat protocols that the Alliance would never approve. In the shuttle bay, Maya met with her core team. Dr. Eliza Kodov, whose expertise in quantum physics had earned her the informal title of reality hacker. Major James Rivera, a veteran of Earth's orbital defense platforms, and technical specialist Kai Wang, whose ability to repurpose technology bordered on the miraculous. Remember, Maya addressed them as they boarded the shuttle. They expect us to fail. They've invited us as a formality, a final checkbox before they order a full retreat from this sector. Then we'll have to disappoint them. Rivera smiled grimly. the scar across his face tightening. By succeeding. The Alliance Command Center was a marvel of alien architecture, a structure that seemed to defy gravity, with crystalline spires and biological components that pulsed with energy. Inside, representatives from dozens of species gathered in tiered chambers, their voices creating a cacophony that the translators struggled to process. Admiral Zirax towered over Maya, his insectoid form nearly 3 times her height. Commander Chen, the Alliance appreciates Earth's enthusiasm in offering assistance. However, I must be clear. The situation on Helios is beyond conventional resolution. Maya nodded respectfully. We understand the gravity of the situation, Admiral. If I may ask, what strategies have been attempted? For the next hour, the Alliance commanders detailed their failed approaches: quantum-locked defense systems, temporal displacement shields, psionic disruption arrays, technologies far beyond human development. Throughout the briefing, Maya noticed the dismissive glances, the subtle shifts in posture that indicated they viewed this meeting as a mere courtesy, and the nature of the Void Dominion's primary weapon. Dr. Kodov inquired, her fingers dancing across her datapad. Strategic Overseer Lennis answered, her voice resonating with harmonics that suggested impatience. They've developed a phase-shifted reality cannon. It doesn't destroy matter. It unravels it from existence. Our best minds have found no counter. Maya exchanged a glance with Kodov, who gave an almost imperceptible nod. Admiral, Maya said, leaning forward, with respect, we'd like to deploy to Helios immediately. Surprised murmurs rippled through the chamber. Admiral Zirax's compound eyes focused intently on Maya. You've heard our assessment. The defensive line will collapse within days. What could your limited technology possibly contribute? Maya smiled slightly. Sometimes, Admiral, the oldest solutions are the ones enemies forget to defend against. The orbital defense platform above Helios was in chaos when the human contingent arrived. Alliance engineers rushed to repair critical systems as warning klaxons announced another approaching wave of Void Dominion vessels. Station Commander Telvac, a veteran of 17 major engagements, made no effort to hide his skepticism as Maya's team boarded. Your timing is either incredibly brave or incredibly foolish, humans. The next attack comes within hours. Perfect, Maya replied, unloading equipment cases that looked primitively mechanical compared to the biomechanical technology surrounding them. We'll need immediate access to your primary sensor array and weapons control. Telvac's bioluminescent patches flashed with alarm. Impossible. Those systems require specialized neural interfaces that your species already solved, interrupted Kai Wang, unpacking devices that resembled crude neural adapters. These will allow us to interface with your technology, though not with the efficiency your species enjoys. Before Telvac could protest further, a thunderous vibration shook the station. Emergency lights bathed the corridor in pulsing crimson as announcements in 17 languages warned of imminent attack. They're early, Telvac hissed, his defensive plates extending reflexively. Maya nodded to her team. Then so are we. Commander, your choice is simple. Let us try our approach, or evacuate with the others when the shields fail. The alien commander hesitated only briefly before gesturing toward the command center. We have nothing to lose but moments, it seems. Within the command center, Alliance officers from a dozen species worked frantically to reinforce defenses. Through the massive observation portal, Maya could see the approaching Void Dominion fleet, black vessels that seemed to absorb rather than reflect light, their hulls rippling with dark energy. Their configuration has changed, reported Major Rivera, studying the tactical display. They're deploying in a tetrahedral formation we haven't seen before. Dr. Kodov was already interfaced with the sensor array, her eyes closed in concentration as the neural adapter translated Alliance technology to something her human brain could process. I'm detecting unusual energy signatures. They're charging something massive. On the main display, the void ships began to align, energy arsing between them in patterns of increasing complexity. It's the reality cannon, Telvac announced grimly. Full scale. They've never deployed it against a planetary target before. He turned to his officers. Begin emergency evacuation protocols. Wait, Maya ordered, her voice cutting through the panic. Dr. Kotov, what's the fundamental principle of their weapon? Kotov's eyes snapped open. It's creating a cascade of quantum disruptions, essentially unwriting the target from the fabric of reality itself. And it requires perfect harmonic alignment to function. Maya nodded. Kai, can you access their communication protocols? The technical specialist was already hunched over a terminal. Working on it. Their encryption is complex, but follows mathematical patterns we've seen in quantum computing. His fingers flew across the interface. I need 5 minutes. We don't have 5 minutes. Telvac objected as the station's shields began to flicker under preliminary bombardment. Maya turned to Rivera. Deploy the chaff packages. All of them. The Alliance officers exchanged confused glances as Rivera accessed the station's external deployment systems. Chaff? Asked a baffled Telvac. Against quantum weaponry. Maya didn't bother explaining as Rivera launched what looked like primitive metal containers into space between the station and the approaching fleet. The containers burst, releasing clouds of metallic particles, technology that hadn't been used in warfare for centuries by most advanced civilizations. Now, Maya ordered, direct all remaining power to the magnetic containment field, inverted polarity. Telvac started to object, then gave the order. Outside, the clouds of metallic particles began to swirl in complex patterns, guided by the magnetic field. The approaching energy signatures from the Void Dominion ships wavered. Their targeting systems are attempting to compensate, reported Kotov. The chaff is creating thousands of false reflection points, and the magnetic field is amplifying the effect. The Void Dominion ships continued their approach, but their perfect formation began to drift as their sensors struggled to maintain alignment through the chaff cloud. I've got it, Kai announced triumphantly. Their communication frequency. It's modulating through 7 primary channels. Maya nodded. Execute Phase 2. From the human ships that had remained in orbit, 7 precisely calibrated jamming signals activated simultaneously. Each targeted one of the Void Dominion's communication channels with what appeared to be meaningless noise. Except it wasn't noise. We're feeding back their own command signals with a 3-millisecond delay, Maya explained to the bewildered Alliance officers. It's creating a feedback loop in their quantum alignment systems. On the tactical display, the energy buildup in the Void ships began to destabilize. The perfect harmony required for their reality cannon dissolved into chaos. Several smaller vessels suddenly went dark, their systems overloaded by the conflicting commands. Impossible, whispered Telvac, his bioluminescence pulsing with shock. The Void Dominion fleet began to retreat, their formation breaking apart as internal systems failed. It wasn't a decisive victory. The enemy would return with countermeasures. But for the first time in months, they had been forced to withdraw without inflicting devastating losses. As the immediate danger passed, Telvac turned to Maya. How? Their technology is centuries beyond yours. Maya smiled grimly. Sometimes the most effective weapon against advanced technology is simpler technology. They were so focused on defending against quantum attacks and psionic infiltration that they neglected basic electromagnetic countermeasures. The Alliance officers gathered around the human team, their earlier dismissiveness replaced by cautious respect. This was only a temporary setback for them, one of the Mercen officers noted. They will adapt. So will we, Maya replied, unfolding a holographic display showing schematics for a device, unlike anything the Alliance had considered. This was just the beginning. Now that we have their attention, it's time for Operation Prometheus. As she outlined the next phase of her strategy, Maya saw something she hadn't expected in the eyes of their alien allies. Hope. Defiance Protocol. The command center of Helios Station had transformed into 3 planetary rotations since the human intervention. Where once there had been ordered chaos of retreat preparations, Now there was purposeful activity. Alliance engineers worked alongside human technicians, combining technologies that conventional wisdom said were incompatible. Maya Chen studied the holographic projection of Operation Prometheus with strategic overseer Lannis, whose luminescent form pulsed with skepticism. This approach defies established tactical doctrine, Lannis observed, her light patterns shifting to indicate concern. The Void Dominion's adaptive algorithms will have already compensated for your previous countermeasures. That's counting on it, Maya replied, manipulating the hologram to highlight a complex network of retrofitted satellites. They'll be expecting us to escalate along the same technological path. Instead, we're going sideways. From across the chamber, Dr. Kodov approached with Telvac, the station commander. The unlikely pair had been collaborating on integrating human neural interfaces with Alliance sensory technology. The prototype is functioning, Kodov reported, displaying readings on her datapad. We can now process Void Dominion energy signatures through human perception filters. It's giving us insights their algorithms aren't designed to conceal. Telvac's bioluminescent patches pulsed with reluctant admiration. The approach is unorthodox, using perceptual limitations as a strength. He turned to Maya. But the Alliance Council remains unconvinced. They're demanding a full presentation before committing resources to Operation Prometheus. Maya had anticipated this. The initial success had bought them time, but the Alliance leadership, representatives of species that measured their civilizational development in millennia rather than centuries, remained doubtful of human capabilities. Then we'll give them a presentation, she decided. Major Rivera, prepare the simulation data. Kai, we'll need a working prototype of the deflection array. As her team dispersed, Maya found herself momentarily alone with Telvac. The alien commander studied her with compound eyes that reflected the starlight from the viewport. You know they don't expect you to succeed, he said quietly. Maya nodded. People rarely expect humans to succeed. It's something of an advantage. The Alliance Council chamber aboard the massive command ship Eternal Light fell silent as Maya concluded her presentation. The circular chamber, designed to accommodate representatives from dozens of species, seemed to dwarf the small human delegation. To summarize, Maya said, standing before the projected simulation of Operation Prometheus, by deploying this network of modified deflection arrays around Helios, we can create what we call a perception blind that will render the planet effectively invisible to the Void Dominion's targeting systems. Admiral Zirax leaned forward, his mandibles clicking thoughtfully. Your initial countermeasure was impressive, Commander Chen, but temporary. The Void Dominion returns with a fleet 3 times larger than before, with systems specifically designed to counter your previous approach. Which is precisely why we're not repeating our previous approach, Maya countered. The Prometheus system doesn't attempt to overpower their technology. It circumvents it by exploiting fundamental perceptual limitations in their sensory systems. The Council erupted in multiple languages, their translators struggling to keep pace with the technical objections. From his elevated position, High Counselor Marigold of the Mersenne Collective raised a limb for silence. Commander Chen, the crystalline being's voice resonated. What you propose would require redirecting 40% of our remaining energy reserves, retrofitting orbital platforms that took decades to construct, and placing our faith in untested human theory. The risk is unacceptable. Maya had expected resistance, but not outright dismissal. She glanced at Dr. Kodov, who gave a subtle nod. High Counselor, Maya replied, with respect, we're not asking for faith. We're offering evidence. She gestured and Kodov activated a small device on the central platform. Instantly, the chamber's lighting systems failed. Emergency backups attempted to activate but flickered erratically. The Counselor's neural interfaces with the ship's systems went dark, causing momentary panic among species that relied on constant connection. Before security could respond, Maya raised her hand. This is a controlled demonstration. The effect is localized to this chamber and will dissipate in 30 seconds. As promised, half a minute later, All systems returned to normal. The counselor's confusion turned to stunned silence as they realized the implications. What you just experienced, Maya explained, was a miniaturized version of the Prometheus system. It didn't attack your technology. It simply made this chamber temporarily imperceptible to your ship's systems by creating a perceptual blind spot. Admiral Zirax's compound eyes narrowed. You disabled Alliance security protocols without authorization. We demonstrated a capability that the Void Dominion cannot defend against, Maya corrected. Because they, like you, have never encountered it before. A tense silence followed before First Sentinel Calvor spoke. The approach has merit, but scaling this to planetary defense would require resources we cannot spare if it fails. Which is why, interjected Major Rivera, stepping forward, we're not asking the Alliance to commit those resources. He activated his own display, showing the 7 human vessels that had arrived at Helios. Earth has dispatched a secondary fleet carrying the necessary components. They arrive within 12 hours. The Council erupted again, this time with indignation. Admiral Zirax rose to his full height, towering over the human delegation. You deployed additional forces without Council approval. We deployed construction materials and volunteer personnel, Maya clarified calmly. Earth understands that the Alliance has protocols. We also understand that while you debate, Helios and billions of lives hang in the balance. Back on Helios Station, Maya stood before a very different council. Representatives from each Alliance species stationed on Helios had gathered in the emergency planning chamber. Not admirals and politicians, but engineers, soldiers, and civilians who would be the first to perish if the defense failed. The Alliance Council has conditionally approved Operation Prometheus, Maya informed them, which was a diplomatic way of saying the Council had been presented with a fait accompli once the Earth ships arrived with the necessary components. We begin deployment immediately. The chamber filled with the sounds of multiple species preparing for action. The clicking of Arthurian mandibles, the harmonic hums of Mersenne communication, the subtle psionic ripples of Thal coordination. Kai Wong took control of the main tactical display, showing the deployment pattern for the hundreds of modified satellites that would create the planetary perception blind. Each unit contains what we call a Faraday quantum mesh, combining ancient electromagnetic shielding principles with targeted quantum disruption. The genius, added Dr. Kotov, is that we're not trying to block the Void Dominion sensors. We're feeding them information their systems interpret as empty space. Their advanced algorithms become a weakness because they're too efficient at processing what they expect to see. The operation proceeded at a feverish pace. Human shuttles worked alongside Alliance craft to position the network of deflectors in precise orbital patterns. Engineers from 7 species collaborated to integrate the human technology with Alliance power systems, creating a hybrid defense that had never been attempted. Throughout the installation, Maya moved between teams, coordinating the effort and addressing the inevitable compatibility issues that arose. During a rare moment of respite, she found herself at a viewport alongside Telvac, watching the planet below. Why? The alien commander asked suddenly. Your species barely knows us. This isn't your war. Maya considered the question. Today it's Helios. Tomorrow it could be Earth. But more than that. She paused, searching for words. Humans have a long history of fighting among ourselves. We've nearly destroyed our own civilization more than once. Perhaps helping save someone else's is a form of redemption. Telvac's bioluminescence shifted to a pattern Maya had learned indicated thoughtful consideration. A curious species indeed. You lack our technological advancement, our evolutionary advantages, even our unified governance. Yet you possess something that continues to surprise us. Before Maya could respond, alarms sounded throughout the station. Major Rivera's voice came over the communication system. Void Dominion fleet detected at the edge of the system. Estimated arrival time: 3 hours. Prometheus network at 78% deployment. Telvac's defensive plates extended reflexively. Not enough time. It will be, Maya assured him, already moving toward the command center. Because we're about to introduce Plan B. The command center hummed with tension as the Void Dominion fleet approached. A massive armada of over 300 ships arranged in a complex geometric formation that allowed their reality-unraveling weapons to synchronize for maximum effect. Prometheus deployment at 92%, reported Kai, his fingers dancing across multiple interfaces simultaneously. We need another 40 minutes for optimal coverage. The fleet will be in firing range in 20, countered an Alliance tactical officer, the fear evident in their translator's rendition of their native language. Maya studied the tactical display, her mind racing through alternatives. Dr. Kotov, can we activate the network at partial capacity? Kotov frowned. Yes, but with significant gaps in coverage. Approximately 30% of the planet would remain visible to their targeting systems. Which 30%? Kotov manipulated the display to show the projected blind spots, primarily in the northern hemisphere where deployment had begun last. Perfect. Maya nodded. Major Rivera, contact Earth Fleet. Execute decoy protocol. Rivera hesitated only briefly before relaying the command. Outside, the 7 original human vessels that had remained in orbit began to move, positioning themselves directly above the areas the Prometheus network wouldn't initially cover. What are they doing? Telvac demanded. Those ships cannot withstand a direct assault from void weaponry. They don't need to, Maya explained. They just need to be more visible than the planet. Understanding dawned on the Alliance officers' faces. The human ships were activating energy signatures designed to attract void attention, sacrificial targets to protect the exposed portions of the planet until the Prometheus network could be completed. Your people, Telvac began, volunteered. Maya finished for him. Every one of them. As the Void Fleet entered firing range, the Prometheus network activated. Immediately, most of Helios seemed to vanish from tactical displays, replaced by what appeared to be empty space. The Void Dominion's massive weapons began to charge, targeting the only visible objects in their sensory range, the 7 human vessels. They're taking the bait, Rivera confirmed, monitoring the enemy fleet's targeting systems through their newly developed interfaces, all primary weapons locking onto our ships. The command center fell silent as the first Void vessel fired. A beam of energy that seemed to bend reality itself as it traveled toward the human ship Defiant. The smaller craft attempted evasive maneuvers but couldn't match the precision of the Void targeting systems. The impact was catastrophic. The Defiant didn't explode or shatter. It simply ceased to exist, unwritten from reality by the terrifying weapon. 3 more human vessels suffered the same fate within minutes as the Void Dominion methodically eliminated what they perceived as the only threats. Prometheus deployment at 97%, Kai announced, his voice tight. 2 minutes to full coverage. On the tactical display, the remaining 3 human ships continued their defensive patterns, drawing fire away from the unprotected portions of the planet. The Alliance officers watched in stunned silence as these primitive vessels, crewed by members of a species new to interstellar travel, sacrificed themselves without hesitation. Now, shouted Kotov as the final satellites moved into position. The Prometheus network surged to full power, and Helios vanished completely from all detection systems, a perfect perceptual blind hiding an entire planet. The Void Dominion fleet halted its advance, its sensors sweeping empty space where a planet should be. Their formation began to shift, adapting to the unexpected development. They're confused, Rivera observed. Their sensors can't reconcile the sudden disappearance of a planetary mass. Phase 3, Maya ordered, and Kai activated the final component of their plan. From the surface of Helios, hundreds of small, unmanned drones launched silently into space. Each carried a miniaturized version of the technology that had disrupted the Alliance Council chamber, devices designed not to attack, but to create perceptual chaos within the Void Fleet. The drones are penetrating their formation, reported an Alliance officer, wonder evident in their voice. No defensive response detected. Within minutes, the perfectly coordinated Void fleet began to falter. Ship-to-ship communications failed as perception blinds created isolated pockets throughout their formation. Vessels fired at phantom targets or, worse, at their own allies as sensory systems reported false positives. "They're retreating," announced Telvac, disbelief coloring his usually measured tones. Indeed, the Void Armada was pulling back, its perfect formation dissolving into disarray. Ships disappeared into hyperspace in uncoordinated jumps, some colliding as their navigational systems failed. The command center erupted in celebrations, sounds of joy in dozens of alien languages filling the air. Maya accepted the congratulations of the Alliance officers with grace, but her eyes remained fixed on the area of space where 4 human ships had been erased from existence. Hours later, as recovery operations began and damage assessments were compiled, Maya stood alone in a quiet observation bay. The door slid open behind her, and she turned to find Admiral Zirax entering, his massive form moving with unexpected grace. "Commander Chen," he greeted her, mandibles clicking in a pattern she had learned indicated respect. "The Alliance Council has requested your presence for a full debriefing." Maya nodded. "Of course, Admiral." "Before we return," Zirax continued, his compound eyes studying her carefully, "I must ask, did you know?" "Know what, Admiral?" "That your approach would succeed. That your species, so new to the galactic community, so limited in technology, could achieve what 7 ancient civilizations could not." Maya turned back to the viewport, gazing at the stars. "Humans have never known if we would succeed, Admiral. Throughout our history, we've faced challenges that seemed insurmountable. What we know is that we must try anyway." Zirax was silent for a moment before responding. "The Alliance has existed for 12,000 years. We have encountered hundreds of species, witnessed the rise and fall of countless civilizations. Yet in all that time, we have never seen anything quite like humanity." "Is that a compliment, Admiral?" Maya allowed herself a small smile. "It is an observation," Zirax replied, "and perhaps a warning. Your species achieved in days what our combined civilizations could not in years. You did so with technology we would consider primitive, with resources we would deem insufficient, and with a willingness for sacrifice that many of us had forgotten." The Admiral moved to stand beside her at the viewport. "The Void Dominion will return, Commander. When they do, they will face not just the Alliance, but humanity as well. I suspect that fact now concerns them more than it would have a week ago." Maya nodded, thinking of the crews who had given their lives to protect a planet not their own. "As it should, Admiral, as it should."